Welcome to Arizona. It's the battle for Camelback Ranch, the Dodgers and the Sox in each of their home ballpark. Spring training baseball is presented by Canals Auto Park. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone along with you, and sometimes as a baseball fan you just get lucky, and we are today. Chris Sale, Clayton Kershaw on the mound together.
There's a lot of people that are most unhappy about this particular game, and that's the hitters, because these two guys can really pitch. Unfortunately, Chris Sale making his debut. We'll take a look at what he did last year, and it was awfully impressive. He set the all-time White Sox strikeout record, and bear in mind he didn't have a spring training. This is a guy who's intimidating at his worst and just overwhelming at his best. And last year, more times than not, although he was 13-11, he was at his best. So Chris going to the mound, he says he's going to go 5. He can throw 75 pitches. He expects to throw each and every one of them. You look at those numbers, they're spectacular. But the man on the other side is pretty good also.
He's the birthday boy today. Clayton Kershaw celebrating his 28th for the Dodgers.
Clayton Kershaw last year struck out over 300 men. This is still a very young pitcher, but so dominating that 5 years in a row he was in the top 3 in the Cy Young Award balloting. And when you look at him, he added a slider a year and a half ago to go with an outstanding curveball, a very deceptive fastball. He really isn't overpowering with that fastball. He's just unhittable. Look at those numbers. 16-7, the ERA a scant 2.13. He is really something. He's the #1 pitcher on this team, a team that, by the way, has had some rotation problems with injuries, but Clayton Kershaw is very healthy.
Should be a fun one today. First start of the spring for Chris Sale, the all-time single-season strikeout leader in Sox history as of last year. First pitch just around the corner. Another cloudless sky in Arizona. What's new out west in the Cactus League as we give you the starting lineup for the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are 10-5-2 this spring. They begin with Kike Hernandez at shortstop, then Howie Kendrick, who re-signed in the offseason. Scott Van Slyke, Alex Guerrero, A.J. Ellis, Austin Barnes, the former catcher, at second base. Our old friend Trace Thompson in center, Elian Herrera in left, and Rico Noel. The right fielder for the Dodgers, Dave Roberts. Here's the Sox defense.
Let's take a look at how they line up today. Behind Chris Sale, Adam Eaton getting his first start in the outfield and left field, and it's Austin Jackson and Avisail Garcia in the infield. Fraser, Saladino, Lowry, and Abreu rounded out with Deandre Navarro behind the plate and Chris Sale on the hill. Chris Sale expects to go 5 innings. You look at the numbers last year, they were overwhelming, especially strikeout to walk ratio. 274 strikeouts in 208 innings. And Ben May is behind the plate on the base paths. Tony Randazzo, Doug Eddings, and Alan Porter.
You know, we're missing one, though, Stoney. We're down an umpire today. I only see 3 out there.
They have tremendous range, though. That's the reason why they allowed this crew to have just 3.
They're beside themselves.
Yes.
Chris Sale's first pitch to Kike Hernandez is outside. This is a righty-heavy lineup today. In fact, devoid of all left-handers for the Dodgers this afternoon.
Not unusual for Chris Sale. One of the guys missing from the lineup would have been missing certainly against Chris Sale is Andre Ethier, who fouled a ball off his leg. Says he's not yet concerned about missing opening day, but it was not a particularly good injury.
Ethier was reportedly on crutches in the Dodgers clubhouse this morning. Fouled away by Hernandez, who's just 3 out of 29, the 24-year-old infielder facing Sale.
The Dodgers are thought to have one of the contending teams in the West. The question will be depth in that starting rotation. That's been a huge problem for them. Everybody talks about 4 and 5. It's to be anticipated that your 4th and 5th starter are not going to be as dominant as the top guys. The Dodgers have had so many injuries that you wonder who's going to fill the 4 and 5 spot.
Yeah, Brett Anderson out with the back injury for maybe a couple of months as Frazier throws out Hernandez and one away here in the first.
This is one of the things with Chris Sale last year. He didn't get a whole lot of runs. He was just 13 and 11. One of the things that a left-handed pitcher will enjoy, and the Sox will have 4 left-hand starters, is the fact that the left side of the infield is going to be very strong with Todd Frazier at third base. With a left-hander who throws good sliders and a good curveball, you have to have a good third baseman because right-handers pull it down that way.
It's Howie Kendrick, who a couple of years ago moved across town from the Angels to the Dodgers. Ball and a strike, the 32-year-old Kendrick.
Kendrick normally will shoot the ball into right and right center field. With that in mind, Jackson is over that way. Howie was always thought of to be a star. He's turned out to be a very good, solid player, and I think the Dodgers are happy to have him back.
One of those flexible infield players, too, can give you a couple of different positions.
And I know Mike Scioscia really liked him as a member of the Angels. The Dodgers are very happy to get him over here. However, they traded Dee Gordon. Dee Gordon has proven to be a star.
Half swing liner foul. Something to watch today with Chris Sale. He's talked about this throughout the spring and reiterated it to me yesterday. He wants the pitch count to be lower this year. How feasible is that for somebody that strikes out so many is the question. That one well hit by Howie Kendrick up the gap in left center. Eaton in his first game this spring in the outfield gets it back in. It's a one-out double.
Howie Kendrick, who does hit the ball normally to right and right center field, this time pulls a fastball. It was up and out over the plate. Chris Sale just looking to throw strikes. And this one tattooed. Eaton gets the ball back in, and Kendrick stops at second. It's not all that feasible unless Chris Sale is going to make a decision to throw a lot of fastballs early in the count and allow guys a 1 and 2 pitch out. He is a prolific strikeout pitcher, and that takes you deep into each and every count. I don't think he's going to throw 3 in the zone for strikes, so it's going to be difficult to limit his pitches.
Scott Van Slyke, who's had a magnificent spring so far for the Dodgers at 12 out of 29. Testing Frazier this time, and 2 down.
Van Slyke with a good baseball lineage. His father, Andy Van Slyke, was just a terrific outfielder with Pittsburgh. Certainly came up with St. Louis. They couldn't find a position for him. Played a little third base before anchoring an outfield that had Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla in that outfield, and they were very good for the Pirates, who 3 years in a row won division titles.
Guerrero takes inside. They just so happened at the end of that run to run into the Braves juggernaut.
That was a big problem, and Pittsburgh, of course, always came up short, much to the dismay of Jim Leland, who later went on to Detroit.
In the air, left-hand side, off the bat of Guerrero, and that will do it for the Dodgers. 1-out double for Howie Kendrick. Goes by the boards. Bottom one coming up. Sox to the bat rack. No score, bottom one in Glendale. Here's the Sox starting lineup. Having hit 26 homers, third in baseball. Adam Eaton, the only lefty in the order at the top. Then Jackson, Abreu, Frazier, Garcia, and Laurie. Jerry Sands, the start at DH. Deontay Navarro after Avila caught yesterday. And Tyler Saladino at shortstop for Jimmy Rollins. Dodger defense, Tony.
And as we look around, it's Herrera, Thompson, and Noel in the outfield with Kendrick, Hernandez, Barnes, Van Slyke in the infield, A.J. Ellis, a veteran catcher behind the plate, and the overwhelming Clayton Kershaw on the hill. 6'3", 235, .90 ERA, and he's won both of his games this spring.
At .90 ERA, the anatomy of that is one earned run in 10 innings so far this spring.
I'm surprised he scored off him at all.
It's a win for the Cactus League, you're saying. Eaton swinging away on 1-0. Kike Hernandez at shortstop, one gone.
Clayton Kershaw was known as just a fastball curveball pitcher. About a year and a half ago, he added a slider to his repertoire. Now, there are some that feel that the slider might be better than the curve. The curve is one of those that seemingly drops out of the sky. Whether you're right or left-hander really doesn't matter. Neither hit him very well. When you have an ERA down close to 2, you're getting it done.
What's that like for a pitcher who's already very good to add another pitch and a more dangerous pitch to his repertoire?
Well, the question becomes, Jason, is when you're going to use it. And sometimes if you fall in love with it and use it too much, it takes away from the other pitches that made you a perennial Cy Young Award contender. But in the case of Kershaw, he just has such a good feel for pitching. And without a fastball that's overwhelming, he doesn't have a Chris Sale fastball. These two guys do it a different way. With Kershaw, he's more deception probably. Sale throws across his body, so it's hard to see the ball from him. Kershaw throws almost right over the top, but yet he has a hesitation in his delivery. In fact, a couple of them. And that makes it really tough to pick him up.
The one that's more clear is off the leg kick.
Yep. Take a look at last 5 seasons. Top 3 in Cy Young Award balloting.
He gets the strikeout of Jackson on 4 pitches. 2 down in the first.
You see the leg kick, the hesitation, then dropping the arm. There's that slider down in the dirt. When you've got 3 overwhelming pitches, it's impossible to guess with a pitcher. What you have to hope is that you get a hittable fastball early in the count. That's the only thing you can really beat him on. You're not going to beat him on his curve or slider. You will be able, if you do it all, to beat him on his fastball.
Pretty good location on that first pitch fastball.
You throw that, you get ahead, especially one at the knees on the outer third of the plate. More times than not, you're going to do okay.
0-2 on Abreu, who's 13 out of 30 so far this spring. Grounded foul by Abreu, who's hit Cy Young winners very well in his career.
You're above 300 against the best pitchers in baseball. You're getting it done. 11 home runs. He's driven in 22. The on-base percentage is pretty impressive when you consider you're facing the best of the best, and the slugging percentage is terrific at .644. What I love about Abreu is his approach and his ability to shorten his swing. Not saying that Kershaw's not going to strike him out a few times, but I will say that more than any other hitter, he makes an adjustment pitch to pitch. He realizes that you have to stay back. That's why he hit that ball to right field. You have to stay back because of that curve or slider, and he wants to stay alive.
Breaking ball, he dubbed foul. It's a big sweeping breaker from Kershaw.
Yeah, it's one of those that comes up. It looks like it just comes up spinning, and next thing you know, it just completely changes planes. That's the big thing. Doesn't stay in the same plane long enough. He gets tremendous rotation on it. And that's one of the biggest mistakes by pitchers. Not a velocity pitch, it's a rotation pitch.
Another one for Abreu, who skies it foul and out of play once again. Well, Clayton Kershaw, Chris Sale combined for 12-plus strikeouts 28 times dating back to 2012.
And last year, 10-plus strikeouts in a game. Both of these guys co-led the major leagues with 13. 13 times with 10 or more strikeouts. There's an example of how Abreu can really make it tough on a pitcher. That's a wipeout pitch against most hitters. That pitch is inside. He's looked at 2 curveballs in a row. Now he gets a fastball right in on his hands. He's able to short stroke it and battle, knowing you can't put it in play, stay alive for another pitch, and it's the 8th pitch of the at-bat. 6 of them foul. Make that 7 of them foul, and the 9th pitch of the at-bat coming in.
You brought your abacus today, didn't you?
Well, math is my life. Stephen M. Stone, the M for mathematics.
Do you have a birth certificate we can check on that?
It'll say Stephen M. Stone. I don't know if it'll say mathematics or not.
One more for Abreu. Downstairs.
Nice at bat, regardless of the resolution of this at bat. Kershaw has battled. Abreu certainly has battled.
Pitch number 10. That'll be an 11th. I have that right.
You're right on the money.
You're the math guy.
Last year was Zach Greinke behind Kershaw. They were as formidable a 1-2 as there was in baseball. Greinke now an Arizona Diamondback.
Grounded to first, Van Slyke, and Kershaw gets the better of Abreu that time on pitch number 11. No score after 1 at Camelback Ranch. beautiful day for some ice cream out on the berm, and you can customize your own Pick 7 or Pick 14 season flex plans today. The Pick 7 and Pick 14 plans feature savings off individual game tickets. For tickets or more information, visit whitesox.com or call 312-674-1000. Steve's dialing his phone right now.
Those plans are, if nothing, flexible. Brooks Boyer up here yesterday saying that they'll be more than happy to walk you through each and every plan, let you pick a lot of the games you would like to see. It's really a big advantage because you get the best seats if you do that. And Brooks last night was ecstatic with the Notre Dame win.
Could there be anybody happier about a basketball team's victory than Brooks Boyer with Notre Dame over Michigan?
He was pretty excited.
A.J. Ellis takes a strike from Chris Sale. 2 balls and a strike from the Sox lefty to the catcher for the Dodgers, the 34-year-old A.J. Ellis.
A.J. Ellis hit .234 last year. Actually, down the stretch, he started to hit the ball pretty well. He's a guy who's going to hit you a homers in the teens, at 16 last year. He's not an overwhelming defensive catcher, but he's a pretty decent catcher.
3-2 from Sale. A.J. Ellis said something interesting during the offseason about Dave Roberts and his plan not to have individual personal catchers for pitchers this year. One popped up on the middle infield. Brett Laurie makes the catch and 1 down. A.J. Ellis said, look, I'm okay with not being Kershaw's personal guy, whatever is best for the team. But what do you think of not having personal catchers? It's one of those baseball things that's perpetuated over time.
There are some pitchers who are good enough to, if not demand, certainly encourage personal catchers. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. However, if that catcher gets hurt and you're not used to throwing to anybody, then it becomes a little problematic. Personally, I was never really good enough to have a personal catcher.
You won the Cy Young.
Well, but that year was different. And I threw to a couple different catchers, primarily Rick Dempsey. But most of the time, it was pretty much put somebody in who's going to help me win. If this guy can hit against this particular pitcher a little bit better, I don't mind all that much. I just wanted my catcher, being a curveball pitcher, to block pitches in the dirt. If the catcher could do that, make sure I couldn't throw the ball by him in the dirt, I was a pretty happy guy. As Chris Sale with a high fastball strikes out Barnes.
First strikeout for Sale this afternoon.
But you might remember, years back, Tim McCarver made a very handsome living and spent a lot of years in the major leagues as Steve Carlton's personal catcher. So it's been going on a long time. And for some teams it works. Other teams it doesn't. I think Dave Roberts is taking an interesting stance. One that I like, by the way, because, again, if your guy gets hurt or if Grandel perhaps can hit some guy a little bit better than Ellis, not a bad idea. And I think Kershaw could throw to a bounce-back machine and get people out.
Be difficult to call pitches, though. He'd just do it himself in that case?
Well, you obviously would trust the credibility of a pitcher to call pitches, wouldn't you?
With that evil glare that I'm getting, certainly the answer is yes. 1-2 on the former Sock, Trace Thompson.
Trace got a chance to be a pretty good one, and he can play all 3 outfield positions, which will give Dave Roberts flexibility.
On the infield, Saladino makes the call and a catch. 5 in a row retired by Sale since the double by Kendrick. 1.5 deep, as you'd expect. No score. happy Valentine's Day to all of you. Red and pink today.
I think it's very nice. It's actually a good look, and that's exactly how this shirt looked last year before I washed it a number of times, and now it's pink and actually works out fairly well.
Bleach does a number on these Comcast shirts. How about it? Sale versus Kershaw in the spring.
It's just a great matchup, and so far it's living up to billing. Both of these guys overwhelming. Chris Sale doesn't have as great control, but he will. This is the first time out, although he's thrown in B games. And for Kershaw, he's the usual Clayton Kershaw, getting just about everything over the plate and pretty close to unhittable.
Nothing's left the infield. 3 batters deep for the Sox, and here is Todd Frazier, who came over in that deal involving Trace Thompson in the offseason. At 8 for 27 this spring. He made quite the play at third late in that game yesterday, the bare hand play. I was talking to him about it before the game, and he said, yeah, it might have been a little unnecessary, but it looked pretty good, didn't it? Frazier off the breaking ball, left center field, and up the alleyway all the way to the wall for Todd Frazier, who has his 4th double in the Cactus League.
I'm not going to tell you that Kershaw won't hang breaking balls, but that was an Arizona curveball. That was a curveball that just came up there spinning. As you can see, it didn't have the sharp break, and when it spins and rolls a bit, a hitter can measure it all the way. This ball absolutely seemed to accelerate away from Herrera, so he's in with a 2-base hit. What a huge addition to this team he's going to be, and he's right. It wasn't a necessary bare-hand pick, but in spring training, when you want to work on things like that, it was pretty good. You see very few guys bare-hand a waist-high bounder, however.
Garcia swings at a first-pitch fastball. You know, Frazier and Avi Garcia have been part of the reason the Sox are tied for 3rd in baseball in slugging percentage this spring, and you'll get differing opinions on whether or not you can carry that into April baseball, but it's certainly a good sign.
It seems to me like Avi might have shortened his stroke somewhat, thinking that because he's among the top 5 in baseball in a new stat they call exit velocity, which is the ball off the bat, how quickly it accelerates off the bat. Avi is one of the strongest in baseball. So if he just makes contact, he's going to drive some balls through the infield that obviously other guys wouldn't get through. I think he's thinking more about contact, and hopefully it does carry over, Jason, because he would be a huge addition to this team offensively.
Tough pitch to hit down and in, and Kershaw has strikeout number 2. We're talking about that play Todd Frazier made over at third yesterday, and here it is.
And take a look at it. You see how high this ball bounces up. Maybe it's a little above the knee. And again, during the season, if you've got a slow-running third baseman, then you're going to make the play easily. If you got a speedster going down the line, you might think about making it bare-handed. He just showed that he could do it, and he figured it's spring training, give it a shot.
Brad Laurie loads up at a first pitch and misses, 0-1. I thought exit velocity, by the way. Thank you for explaining that. I thought that was how quickly you get out of the booth after the final out.
Well, I try to, only because I have to go and do research for the game tomorrow. And so, you know, in a never-ending search for information, that's something I want to get a leg up. That's why today I immediately went to study the Dodgers, and I was not prepared for the lineup they put out there today.
Yeah, this is the B Dodgers this afternoon. Andre Ethier injured, but a couple of other regulars.
Well, Gonzalez playing for Team Mexico, and so he's not going to be here. He will be back, however. Yasiel Puig not in the lineup today.
11-0, by the way, Team Mexico over Nicaragua yesterday in the World Baseball Classic. Check swing grounder back to Kershaw, and a nice pick for number 2. Sox fans opening day Friday, April 8th, 3:10 p.m. against the Indians, and all fans ages 21 and over get the 2016 White Sox magnetic schedule presented by Miller Lite, the original light pilsner and official beer of your Chicago White Sox. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME.
The Dodgers have an interesting center field in that We see Trace Thompson today, but it's going to be Jock Peterson who's going to play out there. Had a great first half last year, a very disappointing second half. If they can figure out just exactly what went wrong for him, they're going to have a good one. He's got big power. The question is, can he consistently make contact? And the Dodgers are hoping that answer is yes.
Line drive to left by Jerry Sands. Frazier around third, and the Sox are on the board against Kershaw in the second.
Sands did exactly what you have to do, I believe, against Clayton Kershaw. Now, Frazier hit a hanging curveball, but you can't really wait for that. Sands went up, picked on the first ball fastball, drove it into left field, drove in his 5th run of the spring, and put the Sox on top. This fastball is up and out over the plate again with Kershaw trying to get on top. Sands took advantage of it. And against a great pitcher, look for that fastball early in the count and try to jump on that.
Maybe even more so in spring, considering the amount of first pitch fastballs you see. Right?
I would think that it's a good plan always in the spring where you're not going to have as good a curveball or slider. You'll probably see a few more.
Deoner Navarro, 14 at-bats so far this spring, 5 hits. Ball and a strike on one of the Sox new catchers, who's commiserating with A.J. Ellis behind the plate. Little catcher fun.
Deoner can hit, and I'm sure what he's explaining to A.J. Ellis is, I'm going to try not to foul one off and hit you with it.
Check on to first, and Sands.
Sands is another one of those guys that might be given an opportunity because of the retirement of Adam LaRoche and a DH that's in flux for the Sox.
Sox down to 43 in camp with the retirement of LaRoche. Talked about Navarro as a hitter, former Dodger himself in 05 and 06 before going to play for the Rays and went back to the Dodgers for one more season 5 years ago. What's wrong with Clayton Kershaw? 3 balls. Dodger fans are freaking out right now.
Yeah, he's going to be fine. Usually, look, this is his 4th start. And because of that, you do reach in spring training a dead arm period where it's just, you feel good, nothing sore. You just don't have quite the life on your pitches. And I think we're seeing that today with the fastball. And certainly that one curve that he hung, that's very uncharacteristic of him.
Or is it a fastball that time to run the count full on Navarro, who they shift against dramatically with a big hole on the right side of the infield.
Interesting, though, they play him as a dead pull hitter in the infield, but an off-field hitter in the outfield. They shade him toward right center.
And he squeezes it through the right side, directly through the shift, and first and third for the Sox with 2 down.
The new catching combo is going to be much improved offensively over the last. And you see the radical shift. This is normally a very easy ground ball to the right side, but they're going off the charts, the graphs, of what he's done against most pitchers, if he ever has any at-bats against Clayton Kershaw. And that time, the charts didn't work.
Well, he owns Kershaw. He's 1 for 2 against him in the regular season.
I would say that's certainly a strong sample size.
Saladino off of Kershaw. And he is safe at first.
Now they're going to check on Kershaw, I believe, although he appears to be okay. That got him with a solid blow. RBI number 5 for Saladino, who hit that ball hard, picked on the first pitch, and drove it right back at Clayton Kershaw. Again, first ball fastball. Catches him just above the left knee. Maybe Karam's off the right leg also. And so No, just the right inner thigh. He caught a good break. He stayed up just high enough.
Eaton takes strike one.
5th run batted in. Saladino trying to win that job at shortstop.
Jimmy Rollins, the other contender there at short, the fairly recent signee for the Sox. Inside to Eaton, who's playing the field for the first time in spring with that shoulder injury and a pinched nerve up there. And he was talking about the rehab from it, that his strength is back, but the muscle, if you looked at the muscle, his doctors told him it doesn't regenerate in terms of look for about 12 to 16 months.
He had a surprising power year last year. I think he came into the season with 6 home runs total, hit 14 last year. 2nd on the team, which is usually not a good thing. But he's an excellent offensive player. And at the top for the Sox, a huge asset.
Navarro at second, Saladino at first, and 1-2 on Eaton. Fouled away. Sox have done a pretty nice job today on 2 strikes against Kershaw.
That's really a testament to the fact that, again, he's probably feeling that dead arm period that a lot of guys will have, especially around sometimes the 3rd, but most likely the 4th pitching appearance in spring training for starters. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing what you're seeing.
Downstairs, 2-2 on Eaton.
A couple of years ago, Adam Eaton, in a surprising development, hits the daylights out of it to center field. Not particularly well played, but the end result is an inside the park home run.
Off of Clayton Kershaw. Will it happen again?
No.
Careful on that limb. Strike 3. 3rd punch out for Kershaw. Sox do touch him up for 2 on 4 hits in the inning, and after 2, the Sox by a pair. Enjoy all the benefits of being a White Sox season ticket holder by purchasing a full and split season ticket plan. Great locations are available now, and you should not miss out on the live action at U.S. Cellular Field this season. To purchase a full or split season ticket package and to view a full list of all season ticket holder benefits, visit whitesox.com or call 312-674-1000 today. Lines are open. You can talk to somebody fantastic right now during the game.
Coming up, In the bottom of this inning, we're going to talk with the fine pitching coach of the Chicago White Sox, Don Cooper.
Longtime member of the organization.
He's going to talk to us, I'm sure, about the progress of a number of his guys, who he sees on the horizon as a young pitcher and how they're doing, and has to be ecstatic with the performance of Johnny Danks yesterday.
5 innings, a shutout ball, a one-hitter of the Cubs. Saladino fires to Abreu for round number 1. I talked to John Danks before this game. He was quite pleased.
He was very happy with the advent of the fastball and straight change, throwing strikes away. Arm side, he talked about controlling the arm side, which is away to right-handers, into left-handers. And he did it real well. Got everything over the plate, kept him off balance, and just did a great job.
Rico Noel, first pitch hunting. In the air to right center, and Austin Jackson makes the call for round number 2.
Now there's an example of what Chris Sale talks about when he wants to limit his pitches. And that is, throw a hittable fastball, maybe on the outer third. Don't look at the outside corner. Use the outer third against some of the weaker hitters and encourage them to swing at the first pitch, like the Sox did against Kershaw. The Dodgers probably having the same philosophy against Chris Sale. Don't let him get to the changeup or slider, and you've got some problems. But picking on a first ball fastball, sometimes you have a one-pitch at bat.
Only hit so far for the Dodgers, a Howie Kendrick double in the first, came later in the count on a 1-2 pitch. Ball to strike on Kike Hernandez. Dodgers last year were one of the top teams in baseball in on-base percentage, 4th in the majors. Hernandez is on with 2 away.
Hernandez playing shortstop today, but the #1 prospect in this organization is going to play shortstop, and that is Corey Seager. He is a good one. He's big. He's 6'4", very much in the mold of Cal Ripken Jr. at shortstop, but so far he makes all the plays, if not spectacular, certainly dependable. But he's got some big power. His brother, Kyle Seager, plays third base for the Seattle Mariners. He's got more power than Kyle, and if he's as good a hitter as Kyle is, and everybody assumes he will be, that's going to be a huge addition to this lineup. Seager, nursing a sore knee, expects to be back in the not-too-distant future, and the Dodgers just believe that the sky is the limit for this young man.
They officially listed as a sprained left knee for Seager. Back to first on Hernandez. Enrique Hernandez goes by the nickname Kike. Just short of 40 pitches for Sale, and a ball to strike.
I want our viewers to anticipate the question I'm going to ask you, but you never ask a question with 2 outs in an inning. But I'm going to hold it in abeyance and give you some time to prepare, because you've got fresh eyes with this White Sox team coming to them this year for the first time. I want to get your overall impressions of what you see of this team this year.
Well, there's a line drive to right by Kendrick. Garcia in pursuit into the corner. Hernandez around third as Garcia has trouble digging it out, and the Dodgers have cracked the score column.
Just the second run batted into the spring for Howie Kendrick. He's 2 for 2 today, a double and a triple. We talked about the fact it was a rarity that he pulled the ball the first time up, but this is what Howie Kendrick does. This is a fastball away. It's out of the strike zone, and he shows you good plate coverage, shooting the ball down the right side, and when Avi has some problems with it in the corner, Hernandez scores all the way from first. So just like that, they cut the lead in half, and it's a 2-1 game here in Glendale.
Called an RBI triple for Kendrick as Van Slyke takes the first pitch down from Sale. Year last year for Scott Van Slyke, trying to bounce back as he rolls one to short, and Saladino, the sure-handed infielder, That's out number 3. Kendrick, 2 out, triple scores Hernandez. The Dodgers slice into the lead by 1. Don Cooper with us next.
See if you can move it.
Back here to Glendale. Thanks for joining us. Sox and Dodgers from Camelback Ranch. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone. And we are fortunate in the Sox organization to have 30-plus years of pitching experience with the organization. And the man down there, Don Cooper, how are you?
I'm doing well, boys. How are you?
Good, good. What do you think of Chris Sale so far?
I think he's doing exactly what I'd hoped for. He's, you know, if you haven't been noticing, he hasn't thrown a breaking ball, and I'm not even sure you're going to see one today. The hitters might be getting on to that a little bit, but it's about him working on his fastball and changeup, location of both, getting his innings and his pitches up, and getting ready for the opening day up in Oakland.
Don, your observations of yesterday's performance of Johnny Danks.
You know, listen, really good, and the whole staff, really, we gave up 1 hit, and any time out here in Arizona you give up 1 hit, it's really good because you got the infields are like concrete, and the ball is usually jump. But Johnny did good. What we're trying to do with Johnny is certainly, you know, more than anything, eliminate mistakes. And we're going to be trying this year to really play on all John's his strengths, but we were trying to eliminate his mistakes. And his mistakes a lot of times are arm side mistakes. And so again, we're looking to play his strengths, and his strengths yesterday was into righties, backdoor curveballs, and certainly the changeup. You know, and the cutter's actually shown some real nice action down here. It's only going to be better when we go somewhere else.
Then we saw a wonderful performance by Nate Jones. It looked to me like the fastball was exploding out of his hand. His slider was as unhittable as it usually is. The keys to his performance this year?
Well, you know, listen, I think when I think of any individual, and with Nate, it's the next step. And the next step for him is to man the whole 7th or whole 8th inning, you know, depending on who's coming up and what the score of the game is for sure. But commanding the fastball is a key. He's got a killer slider when ahead in the count. And, you know, being able to elevate balls and pitch in, I think that's a big part of the next step for Nate. Like yesterday, you know, he threw well, like you said. But I saw a 1-2 fastball that was supposed to be into a righty that he didn't get after it the way I would have wanted to. We spoke about it today because, again, getting in and elevating balls. You know, like last year, he gave up some home runs on some, you know, 98 mile-an-hour fastballs, too, because they're down and into a lefty. Well, we're not trying to go down into a lefty. We're trying to go on the hands and above to a left-handed low ball hitter.
Abreu, the single with 1 out. We're joined by Don Cooper, the Sox pitching coach. You know, spring training is part about young players as well and evaluating the young talent. Who have you seen that stood out to you so far in terms of the younger guys?
Well, the name that comes to mind right away is Carson Fulmer. You know, we usually don't make too many adjustments with a young guy, but we already have. We've moved him on the rubber a little bit. We added a cutter slider in there, and he had a sideline the other day that was what I call a major league sideline. We challenged him with all of the locations, and he came through like a champ. He's looked really good, and he on top of being a great kid, he's very eager. He wants to learn. He stays for all of the games. He wants to watch everything, and you know he's the type of kid it's hard not to like him. But his stuff is good, and he's the next good young one we got coming along. Last year was Carlos Rodon. I'd say this: I think Carson Fulmer is a little bit ahead of where Rodon was last year at this very moment.
When you say challenge him with all the locations, what do you mean by that?
Well, I want to see if he can hit all the locations that he needs to. At the, down the way to both sides, hands to both sides. The lefties in on the hands and righties in on the hands. Kind of like we're talking about with Nate. But Carson's going to banking on him to be a starter, but he located all of them, and he slowed his tempo down a little bit in the full windup. He's made some nice strides, and he's going to be going somewhere in our minor leagues to get ready if we need him later. But he's a guy that I'm really starting to see the improvements. It's starting to form before my very eyes, really.
Don, the young pitchers who come into the White Sox system know one thing that has proven conclusively true over certainly the last 10 years. You guys aren't afraid to bring up young pitchers, a minimum of innings in the minor leagues. Does Fulmer fall into that? Because I would assume with his talent he would.
Listen, I think Fulmer falls right into that. Rodon did, Sale did, Quintana did, Nate Jones and Santiago, when they came up from Double-A. Listen, a quality pitch in Double-A is a quality pitch in the big leagues. We've probably called up more guys from Double-A than we have Triple-A over the last 10 years.
Well, that pickoff is going to run us a little short here. Coop, thank you for the time.
All right, guys.
Always a pleasure.
You bet.
Sox pitching coach Don Cooper joining us from downstairs. Sox lead 2-1 after 3. Arizona, where Chris Sale is throwing to Alex Guerrero, and this ball deep to left field, and Guerrero put a charge into that one. He has tied the game with a solo shot.
Well, something Don Cooper mentioned last inning was that Chris Sale might not throw a breaking ball this entire performance. His breaking ball is a slider. And when hitters realize that he's not throwing one of his favorite weapons, they have a tendency, like on this straight change, to hit it awfully hard. This is an Arizona home run, a towering fly ball that probably drifts out of the ballpark. Although Guerrero is very strong, he's battling to try to get a spot on this ball club. With his claim to fame to this point, having part of his ear bitten off by Miguel Olivo, he's hoping to put that behind him, as it were.
He's come a long way from 2014. They were teammates. Olivo was frustrated that Guerrero, at least the way the story goes, was frustrated that Guerrero didn't place a tag down at second base. Olivo was trying to throw out a base runner. They got into it, and Holyfield Tyson broke out again.
And unfortunately, that pretty much ended the career of Miguel Olivo, who I know was a pretty popular player when he was here with the White Sox.
Back in the early 2000s.
And described by a whole lot of people as a very strong man, certainly has a very strong mandible.
Toothy grin. Played last year. He was in the Mexican League last season. Inside from Sale. Great insight from Don Cooper, not only on Carson Fulmer, but on Sale's outing and how he's basically shelved the breaking ball today.
Well, this is his spring debut. He's thrown in B games. I talked to him about that. He said he got his pitches up to a point at 75 where he was pretty comfortable with where he was. And bear in mind, when you have a pitcher that didn't have a spring training all of last year, anything is improvement this year. And I asked him about his ankle. He said his leg has been perfect. He's very happy with the physical aspect of this spring. He likes the fact that they've pretty much limited his pitches in the, quote, A games of spring training, where you do have a little bit more adrenaline. But as a veteran, he doesn't have to rush into anything.
That ball was up to A.J. Ellis, deep to left field. Eaton watches it fly away, and he sells it as foul. It is a foul ball.
Fortunately, A.J. Ellis got ahead of this ball. This ball up in the zone, hugging the line, but hooking at the last instant to the left side of the pole.
Now, Adam Eaton hasn't played the field all spring, but he was on that one. His physics was dead right as he tried to point into foul ground. And Sale takes something off for strike three. Second punch out today for the 26-year-old Chris Sale.
We'll take another look at it as Chris Sale with a changeup. This time he had Ellis well out in front of it. And Barnes, an interesting story. He's the third catcher on this team. Not playing behind the plate today. They're trying to get him a little more flexibility. He undoubtedly will not break with the club. But they want to have an insurance policy, and they would prefer their insurance policy had some versatility, and that's one of the reasons why that he's not catching, one of the reasons why he's playing second base.
He was at Arizona State in his first year in Tempe. They basically had no catchers, so he was forced into action behind the plate. He grew up an infielder and was given the option after his sophomore year to put the catcher's gear away, decided that he liked it well enough, kept doing it in college, and it's turned out to help him, as you said, to try and make his mark roster-wise for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I doubt if he's going to be able to play in the major leagues as a second baseman. But as a catcher, where every team is looking for one or two of those guys, he's shown that he can do it, and the Dodgers are giving him every opportunity. Blue Man Group is comedy, theater, rock concert, and unforgettable dance party all rolled into one. Don't miss a show that's captivated 35 million people worldwide. Dare to live in full color. I've always loved the Blue Man Group.
So you've been a couple times? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they needed new outfits, but other than that, they were kind of good.
You didn't sit in the front row, did you? You have to bring plastic to cover yourself. You get drenched in the front row, don't you? It's like a Gallagher show.
I was going to say, that's more a little Gallagher than Blue Man.
I think it's both. That one roped to left. Eaton is on it. And two down. The Sledge-O-Matic.
Well, have an affinity for the O-Matic things because one of my dear friends actually was one of the guys that started the company, Ronco, that did Vegematic.
Vegematic.
Yes, Ron Popeil and Mel Corey. Corey was my dear friend.
So is there a story behind the Vegematic that you'd care to share?
It was Ron Popeil's father's original invention, and they asked him if they could take it and go nationwide with it. As that one gets away, that probably will be a wild pitch.
Barnes to second with 2 down.
We'll take a look at it. This one inside and down. Navarro having some problems and puts a runner in scoring position. But they use Vegematic. They demonstrated at county fairs, and their first expert cut part of his finger off.
Good for the insurance premiums.
So my friend then decided to demonstrate it, and the secret was a half-frozen tomato.
So your friend decided right after the guy shaved off part of his finger, I want to be the next guy to demonstrate that thing.
He had a pretty good idea how to do it. Worked out very well for the boys as Ronco became very big.
And this is only the 4th inning, folks.
And the excitement is palpable.
You can feel it, too. Ball to strike on Herrera, who does have a home run against Sale in his career. 2-1. So Don Cooper says Chris Sale's not throwing breaking balls today. What is that like as a pitcher to not have one of your tools?
You're going out there trying to sharpen up whatever it is you have, and then control becomes paramount in any given performance because he knows his slider is going to strike out just about everybody. But he also realizes that throwing a whole lot of sliders has a tendency to irritate, not necessarily injure, but irritate his elbow. He doesn't feel at this point with his first major league start of the spring that he really needed to go to it. He will obviously have it when the season starts. He doesn't feel any sense of abandonment on the part of the organization saying, hey, don't throw that, try to do something else today. So it's worked out pretty well for him. It's not as overwhelming as he usually is, but he doesn't have to be. Again, veterans who are as good as Chris is, they want to get through spring healthy, ready to go at least 7 innings in their opening start, and the rest is pretty easy to go about doing in the spring.
On 3-2, roped foul. It'll take a 7th pitch for Herrera. And
he had 63 pitches. He's got some time left, and strikeouts for 9 innings in White Sox history. See Chris Sale, the top 4, and then Carlos Rodon in his first year, right up there at almost 9 strikeouts for 9 innings.
To shortstop, Saladino, nifty pick and throw on the go for out number 3. That year last year for Sale was 10th all-time strikeouts per 9. 2-2, bottom 4 next. 20,000 fans Saturday, April 9th. Get one of these beauties. A White Sox winter hat presented by Comcast Sportsnet and our friends over there. Jim Angio's sponsoring this himself. Visit WhiteSox.com to purchase your tickets today. First pitch off of Kershaw, flared to center, and a nice jumping effort by Trayce Thompson.
I talked to Nomar Garciaparra before the game, and he was asking me about Trayce Thompson, and I said he's probably going to be your best outfielder at all three positions. This is an outstanding effort. That ball was hit like a rocket. It was accelerating. Trayce was a very graceful outfielder, just went over and made the play. And if anything happens with Jock Peterson, if he becomes the Peterson of the second half, the first half this year, Trayce Thompson is a great insurance policy for him.
Mutual benefit to that trade. Sox get Todd Frazier, who certainly will help this year. Trayce Thompson finds a place where he can be a versatile outfielder.
What you really ask for is on a trade that it's good for both teams. And there's no doubt that Frazier is a huge addition to this team. The Dodgers were hoping to get a little piece of tomorrow with Trayce Thompson, Micah Johnson, and Frankie Montas. But Montas has had a rib problem and has not been able to show what he can do. We saw him throw 100 miles an hour. We know he can do that. And if Micah Johnson would take to an outfield position, he might be able to be a force offensively. I just don't think second baseman is his future.
There's strike three, looking to Laurie, and 2 down. Micah Johnson just sent to minor league camp recently for the Dodgers.
We'll take a look at either a short cutter or a fastball. Whatever it was, Laurie was looking for something else.
So 2 down for Jerry Sands, the former Dodger draft pick. And he takes high. A 25th round pick of the Dodgers back in 2008. One of 2 guys in that 25th round to make the majors from that season. The other being Tanner Roark of the Washington Nationals. Hernandez to Van Slyke in a 1-2-3 inning for Clayton Kershaw, the birthday boy. After 4, we're deadlocked at 2. Chris Sale back on the mound for the Sox. He has faced 3,557 batters in his career. So the right side is career for Sale. That's Kershaw through 3,557.
That's one of the great signposts in baseball is the 3,557 hitter. They usually do a compare and contrast. As you can see, Chris Sale has walked a lot less, struck out a lot more, and as far as ERA, almost equal. Hits, Kershaw a few less, but these are 2 of the dominant left-handers in all of baseball, and you can see that facing either of them is a daunting task.
loyal viewers will know, guaranteed, that that is a Chris Kamka special right there. Anything involving the 3,557th batter is our stat guy's purview.
One of the great signposts.
You still remember your 3,557th batter?
I do. It was in my 30th year.
Sale has it tick off his glove, and Noel with great speed busts it down the line safe.
It's the best thing to do for a right-hander who doesn't have a whole lot of pop. Is with the left-hand pitcher on the mound who falls off to the third base side, just bunt it up the right side and hope to outrun him. In this case, put the pressure on Chris. The ball drops out of the glove, and Noel is aboard on first base. It will most likely be a base hit, although Chris would tell you that he should have made that play.
Runner on for Kike Hernandez. Second straight inning with the leadoff man aboard or in. As Sale checks on Noel, who stole 90 bags back in 2012 in the California League. But he was not in first place in the California League with 90 steals in 2012 because he had the misfortune of being in the same loop as Billy Hamilton, who stole 104 that year. Through the right side, base knock for Hernandez, and Noel slams hard on the brakes and gets back to second.
Bobby got to that ball quickly, but the throw almost got away. He's got a very strong arm. You would like to make sure that he makes that throw on the button, as Noel did put on the brakes. And as you can see, this one well off the mark.
Navarro's going to talk with Chris Sale and Tyler Saladino. Maybe it was his shoe being untied. Bobby went to the shoe immediately thereafter.
Could very well be. I'm sure one of the things they're talking about is the possibility of a bunt, although we don't see Howie Kendrick bunt too often.
Chris Sale, 16, 13, 13. The big number is in the fourth with 23 pitches. And now just short of that 75 mark that he had mentioned prior to the game, which was his number he planned to hit today. Throw to first, and they got him. Abreu snuck behind Hernandez.
Good pickoff. Chris Sale has a good move, and going behind the lead runner is always a good thing, and this is a good time to work it out in spring training. And as you can see, no chance at all for Hernandez. He's just out there daydreaming, getting a good view, wondering just exactly what Kendrick was going to do, and he got picked off. Ideally, however, and again, this is just spring training, so it's a good thing to work on, but ideally you can make that play without having a meeting at the mound, because if you do that, you're going to really surprise everybody in the ballpark, and in this case, he surprised Hernandez anyway. Good way to try to get out of an inning without facing a hitter.
Well, Howie Kendrick has hit Sale well today. He's 2 for 2. He's got a double to left and a triple to right. Lineup full of right-handers today for the Dodgers. Sale comes to the plate with a strike.
You like high school basketball?
I do.
We've got something for you.
Not yet, though.
Coming up. Not yet, no.
That's what we call a tease in the industry.
This is exactly what we want to do. Just tease the promo.
Sale steps off. Could have read the promo.
I don't want to rush into anything. We'll keep our audience in abeyance.
1-2. Kendrick to right center. Jackson on the move. They had him played perfectly that time. 2 down.
Tonight The IHSA Boys Basketball Finals continue. Tune in at 8:30 as the Class 4A state title is up for grabs. You can also stream the game live on csnchicago.com/Illinois High School. CSN Chicago, your home for IHSA championship basketball.
Look forward to it.
Okay, so your overview of seeing this team. This is the first time you've seen the White Sox, 2016 version. And what do you think of the ball club and what's ahead for them?
Well, you look at the starting pitching, and that's where you center your focus with a guy like Sale at the front of the rotation. You get Quintana and Carlos Rodon, who Don Cooper's very high on. You can hear the way he talks about him. You get those three guys at the front, and then you add some pieces like Todd Frazier. His first half last year speaks for itself, the type of guy he is in the clubhouse. You have to believe that better things are on the horizon. As Van Slyke hits one to right, and this one gets fouled. It'll be interesting to see. You don't get a real clear picture of the bullpen in spring training, at least so far. We haven't seen a number of the prominent pieces. David Robertson looked good yesterday. Nate Jones, as you said, looked very strong. So you'd imagine that would continue to be a strong spot. And if the starters don't have the most innings pitched in baseball this year, the bullpen will have a chance to flex its muscle a little bit more and fall into those roles. But you know as well as anybody, with Nate Jones back, that bolsters the back end of that bullpen and fits other guys into their spots more seamlessly as well.
Jake Petrichka threw the ball well yesterday. There was a couple of errors behind him, but he made good pitches and got out of the inning. Even though he gave up a couple of runs they shouldn't have scored, it should have been a 1-2-3. It wasn't. It didn't diminish his stuff, however. And normally, when you look at his ERA last year at 3.63, he was pretty durable. That was a good earned run average. And for the job they asked Jake to do, and they can put him in just about anywhere, he's very effective.
You know, the other thing is Todd Frazier being at third. He's a different type of personality as Robin Ventura than Robin is, but he's a self-policer. And Robin was that type of person as well, from everything I've heard through people in the Sox organization. And you'd imagine that would help keeping command of the clubhouse.
What Chris Sale said today, I talked with him about the outing he was going to have, but I also talked to him about the clubhouse. And he talked about Todd Frazier, and he said he's the kind of guy where you want to hear what he has to say on a given day. And that is a guy that can assume team leadership. Doesn't have to do it all by himself, but he's one of those guys that the players are going to look up to because of his performance and because of his personality. And being a Toms River, New Jersey guy, he has a terrific personality, but he has a take charge personality that I think there's a lot of people in that clubhouse that appreciate.
Sale missed on a borderline 2-2 and gets a swinging strikeout of Van Slyke to conclude the fifth. Back-to-back singles started it. Pickoff, fly out, strikeout, and Sale back to the bench in a 2-2 game. for joining us for spring training baseball. Jason Benetti and the venerable Cy Young winner Steve Stone. Look, the Sox team won a game yesterday against the Cubs. You get Sale versus Kershaw today. What do you make right now of the way the Sox club stands with a couple weeks left in spring training?
I think they're having a pretty good spring training, and I think they're discovering a little something about themselves. And one of the things they're discovering is that this clubhouse chemistry is good. And to a man, they're thinking that the last couple of days are going to bring everybody together. And talking with Chris Sale, he said, look, Babe Ruth quit baseball. He was gone. He didn't play anymore, and baseball went on. And baseball will continue to go on. I thought that's a lot of perspective from Chris Sale, who was kind of in the eye of this. And I think it shows the maturity not only of Sale, but the idea of the ball club is that they're going to get over whatever happened and the problems that it created, and they're going to go on and win baseball games. I love the chemistry of this team. I think it's going to be a very close-knit clubhouse.
Check swing by Navarro, ball and a strike on it. Sox catcher in his first season with the organization. One and two on Navarro. We told you it's Clayton Kershaw's birthday. He is 28 years old today. The Dodgers left-hander celebrates a birthday on the same day as David Ross, and as Navarro floats it down the line and has a hit for himself. Leadoff single. Clayton Kershaw shares a birthday with Bruce Willis as well. Happy birthday, Bruce. When Clayton Kershaw was being born, yes, Die Hard was 4 months prior to its release. Same year, Die Hard, Bruce Willis, Clayton Kershaw hit the earth.
It's close to Kafkaesque.
A little less confusing?
A little less, and you can see the second inning was a problem for Kershaw, who doesn't have a whole lot of problems normally. The fourth inning, a very good one.
Saladino, the bunt, third base side, and he advances the runner as Kendrick throws him out. Navarro to second with one down.
That's really something that you got to get the runner to second base somehow. So you can use a hit and run, but they decided to try with Saladino to bunt. He showed last year that he can execute. And he lays it down perfectly. He leaves Kendrick with only one play, the off-balance throw. He moves along Navarro. The go-ahead run in scoring position. Good execution by Saladino. He is a smart baseball player. He's got a very high baseball acumen. I think the Sox appreciate that about Tyler.
One down for Eaton, who is 0 for 2. Breaking ball stayed up from Kershaw.
Did you bring your parrot to the ballpark today again?
I don't know where this is going.
Well, we had a little, there was a little kind of noise in the booth.
I thought it was your marimba.
Not even that, no.
Your travel-sized marimba. Fouled away by Eaton, 1 and 2.
This is most likely going to be the last inning for Clayton Kershaw. And I think Chris Sale has thrown his last pitch today as the Sox bullpen is up and going. So far, no activity in the Dodger bullpen. It's Tyler Danish. I talked to him before the game, and he said that he lives and dies with the sinker because of his release and his arm angle.
To shortstop, Kike Hernandez gets eaten by a step and a half, and 2 away for the Sox in the 5th. Here's an interesting guy for the Sox. Austin Jackson hitting in that 2 position. And it'll be worth noting to see where he plays during the season. He can be a flexible center fielder, corner outfielder type, and where he pushes maybe Garcia or Eaton. And notable that Adam Eaton is starting in left in his first game in the field this Cactus League.
One of the reasons why Rick Hahn decided to make a relatively small investment on Jackson is the fact that he's just an outstanding defensive center fielder. What he hits, I believe, is going to be a bonus, but he's going to make pitchers very happy because he can get them alley to alley, very rarely misjudging the ball, and that's one of the things that the Sox missed last year. The outfield defense wasn't particularly good. It will be considerably better with Jackson there is a viable alternative at just about any place, and also allow Robin a chance to move guys around. And plus, with the emergence of the now wide open designated hitter spot, that's also going to improve the defense and move guys around.
In the air, right side, and Noel squeezes out number 3. America's fastest growing sensation coming at the top of the 6th. We unveil today's Sticks and Stone. Stay with us. 2-2. Once again to quiz Steve Stone on his own career. Stoney, how'd you do against Steve Garvey?
I think I did pretty well. The one thing I was unable to do was mess up his hair even one iota, despite the fact that he usually wore a batting helmet against me.
So pretty well, you think you did?
I think I did pretty well against him.
The great unveil, 7 for 24. That's better than you thought he did against you, isn't it?
No home runs and 1 RBI for a prolific hitter as Steve Garvey. That's okay. Only struck him out twice, though.
You'd like more.
Yeah. But he was a pretty good one.
Just pretty good?
Pretty good.
First pitch to Guerrero is off the plate. 1-0. You faced him in the All-Star game, is that right?
I did. Retired him once. He was an interesting player because he started as a third baseman and then hurt his arm, had to move to first base, and for a long time was a Dodger first baseman. He helped anchor a very good infield that stayed together for a long time. Say, Russell, Lopes, and Garvey.
Alex Guerrero, who homered last time up against Chris Sale. Interesting that Chris Sale went back out for this 6th inning. He had mentioned to both of us 75 pitches was where he was believing he was going to go.
Obviously he feels pretty good because he's about to deliver pitch number 85.
Number to second base, and Laurie, 1 down. It's a better result for Chris Sale than last time from Guerrero early in the count.
Picked on a first ball fastball, took it out of the ballpark. And now that appears to be it for Chris Sale, who apparently wanted a little payback against Guerrero, jamming him and little tapper to second base, so Chris will leave. And it appears that Tyler Danish is going to come on and take his place.
Steve will tell you all you need to know about Tyler Danish when we come back. 2-2 in the 6th from Camelback Ranch. Back to Glendale, Arizona. New pitcher for the Sox is Tyler Danish, in for Chris Sale, who went 5 1/3 and gave up just a couple of runs.
Let's take a look at the numbers of Tyler Danish. This is 6th game. He's 1-0 ERA. Very good down here at 338. He's not going to strike out a whole lot of people. Being a sinker baller, he just wants to get the ball around the plate and allow guys to pound it into the ground, which is not always a great thing here in Arizona because of the rock hard infields.
I want to pass along a Twitter hello sent in to us at Jason Benetti and at Steve Stone. A hello to Richard Dempsey, who lives in lovely Grays Lake, Illinois. Mary Hogan, who's here at the game today from Denver, wanted to say hello. Danish, the scoop. 2 down.
And let's take a look at the day of Chris Sale, who went 5 1/3, gave him a couple of runs on 6 hits, struck out only 2. Well, actually struck out 3, and the pickoff. A very good one, that with runners at first and second and nobody out. Helped get him out of the inning, and that particular thing is important in the spring for the simple reason that the advanced scouts, the guys who are here paying attention to each and everything all the teams do, are going to put in their book with a couple of men on. Chris Sale and Jose Abreu will not be afraid to use a pickoff play behind the lead runner. That comes into play because on a ground ball, the trailing runner can't get as good of a secondary lead if he's worried about getting picked off. So that serves dual purposes. Number one, getting Chris out of the inning, which in spring training is not all that important, but serving notice to everybody the Sox play that maybe they'll try a few more pickoffs this year and hold down the leads.
So what does that going in the book do for the Sox? How does that proliferate around baseball?
Secondary leads are a little more dangerous if they know they're going to use pickoff plays behind a lead runner. And especially with a left-hander on the mound, the Sox have 4 starters. They're going to be able to use that play consistently, gives more confidence to the guys to use it. And again, because it's spring training, they had a team meeting on the mound before that particular pickoff. During the season, if you're going to use that, all you want is a sign from the first baseman. He wants an acknowledgement from the pitcher because he doesn't want to be going to the bag without a pickoff being used.
Strikeout for Danish. So you're saying you don't want that giant neon sign that says something's coming.
No.
Pickoff. Bottom 6 next. to beautiful Glendale, Arizona. We were joined earlier by Don Cooper from downstairs. Dodgers and Sox have played even so far. Kershaw versus Sale has kept the scoring down. We're even at 2 going into the 6th inning, and a pitching change for the Dodgers. Mr. Coleman, late of the Royals, is on. Steve?
Lewis Coleman comes on. He's had a very good spring. 5 innings, just 2 hits, 8 strikeouts, no walks, battling to win a spot in that bullpen. We saw Coleman at times, because of his unusual motion, pretty tough against the right-handers and fairly vulnerable against the left-handers because he throws across his body. He will shield the ball from the right-handers. Left-handers see it most all the way, and so they will get better looks.
Downstairs, 2-0 on Abreu.
Take a look at the hands of Abreu as he faces Kershaw, who tries to get inside on him. He brings his hands in. It's an inside-out swing, something that he has to do to stop from breaking his bat. That's a very knowledgeable hitter with a great approach to a tough pitch from a Cy Young Award winner. And that is, as Hawk Harrelson would always talk about, hitting with short arms, which is pulling the hands in, taking the ball the opposite way. You don't break any bats, you don't yank anything foul down the third baseline, and you wind up with a base hit to right.
Slider inside on Abreu, 3-1. And along with that single, Abreu had a double-figure pitch at bat that turned into an out in the first inning, but he wore Kershaw out on 2 strikes.
I think when he looks at the tape of this game, the video of this game, he's going to make sure that he sees exactly what Kershaw tried to do and realize he's had 2 very good at-bats against him. And now we'll see how he fares against Coleman. It appears that both bullpens are up and going.
Coleman a payoff, and Abreu chases down and away, strike 3. Coleman, one of a couple of changes for the Dodgers. Rob Segedin in at third, Cody Bellinger at first for Van Slyke, and Sean Zaraga is the new catcher for A.J. Ellis. Sox hitter is getting at least 3 trips to the plate today. Frazier is 1 for 2 with a double and a run scored back in the Sox 2-run second. There's that breaking ball to right-handers.
Yeah, the slider from Coleman to right-handers is a tough pitch to hit. Again, because he throws across his body, meaning that his stride is toward the third base side. That hides the baseball against the righties, but does open it up somewhat to the lefties.
Downstairs, ball and a strike as Zach Putnam gets loose for the Sox.
The outfield shading Frazier around toward just a step toward right center field. Not expecting him to pull the ball off Coleman unless, of course, he hangs that slider.
Down and out with a fastball, 2-1.
There you see Trace at the top of your picture. 35 home runs, 35 doubles last year. Nolan Arrieta, the defensive whiz from the Colorado Rockies. Cespedes, Donaldson, Harper, and Ortiz rounded out with Todd Frazier,
who has to get out of the way of a wayward fastball. 3-1. Frazier takes some rips up there.
Coleman got a little lucky. He got a fastball up, and Todd fouled it straight back, meaning the hitter is right on it. Just didn't get a piece of it. If you're not overwhelming, falling behind 3-1 usually costs you some base hits.
On 3-2, Frazier skies it to center. Thompson has the second out. Join us at U.S. Cellular Field throughout the 2016 season for free T-Shirt Thursday. The first 10,000 fans at every White Sox regular season home game will receive a specially designed White Sox T-shirt. To purchase your free T-Shirt Thursday tickets, visit whitesox.com. Every Thursday home game, free T-Shirt Thursday. Steve will wear them for us on the broadcast.
Proudly.
Javi Garcia is 0 for 2, and he swings away on the first pitch.
Dave Roberts did a pretty good change of pitchers at this point. It's going to Coleman against the 3 right-handed Sox hitters.
It's been on the wish list for Sox fans this offseason, is maybe one more left-handed bat so you don't have the series of right-handers in the middle of the order.
That would certainly round things out as far as balancing the lineup, and it could very well be that Travis Ishikawa, who is an invitee to spring training, might be able to secure a spot. Still a long way to go in spring, and still a lot of tough decisions to be made. You talked about the 43 players left in camp. Something that gets a little more difficult as you move along. There's some guys automatically that you know are not going to be here, and they will go down, but there's some very tough decisions made maybe with the final 5, and one of them has got to come out of that bullpen.
Chopped to third by Garcia. Rob Seguin across the way to retire the side, and Coleman has a 1-2-3-6. The Dodgers 2-2 heading into the 7th in spring training.
He's the son of an NBA coaching legend who starred at Glenbrook North and later went to Coach K's Blue Devils. Get to know Northwestern's men's head basketball coach, Chris Collins, on an all-new Inside Look presented by Cadillac, premiering tomorrow night at 6 on CSN Chicago.
Trying to make their way back into the NCAA tournament, which has continued today with a Yale loss to Duke, among other things. Zach Putnam on the hill for the Sox.
Zach Putnam not having a particularly good spring. He is a sinker baller to go along with a split finger fastball that he uses, and when he's right, he's very effective. Came up with some injury problems last year, but when he was healthy, he was good. And there are wholesale changes all around the diamond for the Sox as we head into the 7th inning. In a 2-2 tie, hits tied at 6. It's been an errorless game, and another picture-perfect afternoon in Glendale, Arizona.
It's starting to get to the point where I almost don't have to mention it's so beautiful out here. This is my first extended Cactus League time. I had come to Sox spring training maybe 10, 15 years ago back in Tucson. I don't recall the weather being this nice, but I'm planning to come back again next year.
Well, Tucson's a little cooler than Phoenix as a rule, but this has been an unusual spring only in that it's gotten warmer sooner, and because of that, players certainly enjoy it. The weather is consistent. There hasn't been, and at times there will be in the spring, very heavy winds. We haven't seen a whole lot of that this spring.
It's been still and cloudless and beautiful. Thompson left side of the infield. Tyler Saladino remains in the game, one of the few staying in, and he throws out Thompson for out number 1.
Let's take a look at the defensive changes. There's Matt Davidson at third base, who's having a very good spring, and a spring that he hopes leaves a great impression, with Travis Ishikawa coming in at first. Omar Narvaez behind the plate. Garcia, May, and Coates left to right in the outfield. That's Leury Garcia in left, Jacob May, and Coates in right. So a lot of changes here late in the ball game.
Elian Herrera, who is listed in the 8th spot, remains with a couple of ground balls to short so far today. Sox got 2 in the 2nd inning. The Dodgers chipped back with a run in the 3rd, and the next and final run in the 4th on a solo home run from Alex Guerrero. Swing and a miss. Herrera is tossed out by Narvaez, and 2 down here in the 7th. Quick work by Putnam of the first 2 in the bottom 3rd of the Dodgers order.
Before he had some injury problems, he had a pretty good beginning to last year, and then all of a sudden his ability to get the splitter over the plate was something that really plagued him. His ERA wound up close to 5. Was not a particularly good year, but there has been some moments where he's been a very valuable member of the pen. And the one thing you mentioned earlier, Jason, was that the bullpen yet to be determined as to just exactly how it's going to fit together.
Robin Ventura seems to have a good idea of who the pieces are going to be, but not necessarily where those all will end up. Garcia in pursuit in left, and that will do it for the Dodgers here in the 7th inning. Stretch time in Glendale. We're tied at 2, Sox and Dodgers. invite you to join the free WhiteSox.com blacklist for exclusive club content all year long, including ticket offers, breaking news, special event invites, and more. Visit WhiteSox.com/blacklist to register today.
Got a new pitcher on the hill, and it's hard-throwing Kenley Jansen, 6'5", 270 pounds, out of Curacao. Last year, the ERA 2.41 in 54 appearances with 36 saves. One of the tougher closers to hit in baseball.
The Sox see him in the 7th today. And Laurie in the air to right field for out number 1.
Best long best wishes to a friend of mine looking on, Don Vogel. Watching the ball game today, and there you look at the numbers of Kenley Jansen. Has not had an opportunity yet to save a game. They don't really need to have him do that. Right-hander surprisingly hitting 300 against him. It is early in the spring. And like all veterans, and Jansen is that, you want to gear it up for the last week when you get ready to go for when the bell rings.
So it just happens that fast, right? You're building to the season, and suddenly the switch goes, and you're into game mode.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the way it happens. You try to stay healthy if you're a veteran when you know you've made the team, and you kind of put the hammer down probably the last week. For pitchers, maybe the last start. For hitters, spring training always seems to be 10 days to 2 weeks longer than it should, because hitters do get ready much sooner than pitchers get ready. If you talk to them, they will tell you it's time to start the season. It's not yet. It'll probably happen in about 4 or 5 days from now.
Adam Eaton said basically that very thing to me this morning. He said there are things to work on, but you just want to see something else.
Yeah.
You're in the same place over and over again. And don't mistake it, folks. These guys get here to the complex very early in spring training. It's a much different schedule than during the regular season.
And for most teams, I know the Sox certainly included, you play almost all day games during the spring. And then certainly after the first week of the season, you're playing almost entirely night games. It is an adjustment, and something that they've tried to experiment with in the spring. They just don't play that many night games.
To left field, and this one gets down for Jerry Sands, who's 2 out of 3 this afternoon in front of the largest 2016 Camelback Ranch crowd.
13,203.
New defensive players for the Dodgers.
Culberson at shortstop. Mises in right field. Brown in left field.
Corey Brown out of Robin Ventura's alma mater, a former Oklahoma State Cowboy.
Got a lot of real good hitters that came out of Oklahoma State.
One of the Holiday brothers now leading the charge down there. Josh, I think. Matt's brother.
Matt trying to just stay healthy with St. Louis. They've had a number of injuries, wondering if Yadier Molina is going to be entirely healthy this year. He's really the heart and soul of that lineup. And certainly when you have a lineup that lost Jason Hayward, you've got to have a very healthy Matt Holloway.
They just went out and signed Ruben Tejada today to play some shortstop, you'd imagine, trying to fill that gap from the Johnny Peralta injury.
They're hoping that Peralta's surgery with a ligament problem in his thumb is only going to take 3 months, and that when he comes back 100%.
They also hope that Bronson Arroyo's first doctor didn't look at the MRI. How about that situation going on in Washington?
Pretty amazing. Bronson Arroyo, for years, one of the most durable pitchers in all of baseball, didn't go on the disabled list for a number of years, just made start after start after start. They told him basically his career was over because of the tear, And they said,
cuff.
yeah, and they said, no, sorry about that. It really isn't that. And maybe it's 7 to 10 days with some inflammation, and you're going to be okay. So there's a far cry from, son, I think your career's over, to 7 to 10 days, and you'll
give
be
it
fine.
a week.
Yeah, rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine.
The reports now say the Nationals are refuting the current report, and they're going to maybe get a third opinion as Narvaez swings and misses. So we will continue on the Bronson Arroyo beat
for the saga
as spring goes along.
We would be remiss if we did not talk about the legend, the Hall of Famer by acclamation, Vin Scully. In his final year, graces the cover of the Dodger Media Information Guide. They've got Kershaw on the back, but as you would expect, Vin Scully, a very young Vin Scully. He started in Brooklyn with the Dodgers.
This is the only time that I will at all look or sound like Vin Scully, is if I have the book in front of my face. Long drive by Saladino, left center field, and Tyler Saladino gets it out of here. That's a deep part of the ballpark, and Saladino mashes it to left center.
That's 3 runs batted in today for Tyler, and I was telling you before the game that Tyler Saladino is a bit stronger than most people realize. He crushed that ball to left center field. He took it off one of the better closers around, who quite obviously is not in regular season shape at this point. So it's a 4-2 game, and 3 of them driven in by the Sox shortstop.
So the Sox retake the lead on this from Saladino.
Take another look at it, and it appeared to be an off-speed pitch from Jansen. It was crushed and got out of here in a hurry.
You know, again, you look at the power numbers for Saladino, and the year that really stands out is 5 seasons ago, his first season in Advanced A with Winston-Salem. He hit 16 home runs that year in 397 at-bats. So 102 games, 16 homers. Those are robust numbers for Saladino.
Well, especially for a very young hitter. And he's just obviously feeling his way in the major leagues and trying to win the job at shortstop. He can do a whole lot of things. We've seen today he's a very good fielder, can throw on the run exceptionally well, gets rid of the ball quickly, which most shortstops will tell you is the best of the attributes you have to have, the transference to your throwing hand, and a lot of times getting in position while you're setting up to catch a ground ball so that you can get rid of it quickly. Saladino does that.
3-0 on Jacob May. And ball 4 from Kenley Jansen. You mentioned the RBI single early in the game off of Kershaw, literally off of Kershaw. His second trip to the plate, sacrifice bunt, got Navarro to second, and then the 2-run homer. So 2 for 2, 3 RBIs, and a runner advance on the sac bunt for Saladino.
I think as happy as Robin is going to be about the base hit and the 2-run homer, he's going to be equally happy with the sacrifice bunt, because this is a team last year that at times was challenged in the fundamentals, situational baseball. That was a very good bunt. Saladino, one of the guys in this lineup that's consistently going to be able to hit behind the runner if you ask him to do that, and lay down a bunt when he has to lay it down.
I think maybe that if we ask him after the game or tomorrow, he might say he was bunting for a base hit there too. He nearly beat out the play that Howie Kendrick made on him. So now Jason Coates in the spot previously occupied by Austin Jackson, with May over at first.
Not a bad idea here to take off. 2 outs in the inning. There's no downside to trying to steal second.
Jansen thinking the same way, checks on May.
Jansen is not the quickest to home plate. And of course, what every first base coach is going to do is he's going to take and time what it takes for a pitcher to come to home plate. It's a mathematical equation, and that is average pitcher getting the ball to home plate is 1.3 seconds. Average catcher from glove to glove, leather to leather,
There he goes. And he easily has second base stolen. May in.
The average catcher, leather to leather, the time he catches it to the time he gets it to second base is 2 seconds. And May, with big speed, makes it easily. So for a base runner, if the combination of the pitcher and the catcher is over 3.3 seconds, you can steal rather easily. If it's substantially under that, it's going to be a challenge.
That stolen base is good news for the Sox, because if there's one thing that hasn't borne out positive forward movement this spring, it's the decisions to steal bases and the success rate there. Just 7 out of 16 before this game started.
Well, one of the guys that's certainly working on his technique, because he has the requisite speed, that's Adam Eaton. Adam Eaton, if he can get up there where he's stealing successfully 80% of the time, maybe a little higher, he's going to be a huge asset. Not that he's not an asset to this point, but again, with the speed, then you're looking for technique, and that's one of the things that Adam would like to learn. And most good base stealers will tell you, keying off the pitcher, everyone has something different. Some guys, it's the back knee. When they bend the back knee, they can't come to first base. As soon as they bend it, you take off. Some guys, it's the shoulder, the front shoulder, especially against a right-hand pitcher.
Fly ball out to center. And Noel puts it away. I was talking to Adam a little bit about that the other day, and his base stealing. We'll tell you more about that in the 8th. But Tyler Saladino has maybe kept us from extras. Sox 4-2 after 7. Back to our humble abode here at Camelback Ranch. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone. We have a combined 1 Cy Young award between us. How about the Sox today? Chris Sale goes more pitches than we expected. And Tyler Saladino with a home run recently, last inning.
I think the Sox look much better this spring than they've looked in quite some time early in the season, and they're doing it because the additions to the team have been huge factors, but also some of the younger players, guys you didn't think would be a factor, are. Tyler Saladino today. We've had some very good pitching. Certainly yesterday and today the pitching has been overwhelming, and it was nice to see Chris Sale out there. So these are 2 successful games the last 2 days that we've done the broadcast, and we'll do 3 more in a row.
Are you taking credit for the success?
Well, I would like to, as a broadcaster, move over 500. We're 1-1 now. This would make us, of course, 2-1, and we have an awful lot to do with it as Tommy Kahnle comes into the game.
4th pitcher used today by the Sox, and Kahnle throws upstairs to Corey Brown. Sox have made a couple changes defensively. Why don't you tell us about it?
I'd be more than happy to, with Carlos Sanchez in at second, and Tim Anderson, former #1 draft pick of the Sox, developed by the organization, now checks in at shortstop. Anderson has shown some people that he can play, and that's easily hit to Ishikawa, who puts it away just as easily.
I said, why don't you tell us about a defensive replacement? Not why don't you do the play-by-play?
Well, I thought as long as we were in the neighborhood, Ishikawa, one of my favorite defensive first basemen.
Yeah?
Very good. And there's a look at Tim. And, you know, we talked about Vin Scully, and certainly he's probably the prototype of every broadcaster that either came before him or after him. Probably the best ever. But also, in the same neighborhood is Jaime Jarrín, another Hall of Fame broadcaster who does Spanish radio for the Dodgers. Jaime is a wonderful man, has been around a long time, just celebrating another fairly long-term deal with the Dodgers, and I'm sure that people who do listen to Spanish radio have appreciated Jaime below these 60 years.
You introduced me to him before the game, and just in one short conversation, you can tell how genuinely kind of a man he is over there in the radio booth.
And I think that they've had such wonderful broadcasters with the Dodgers over the years. Joe Davis now going over there and doing a good job for them. I talked to Rick Monday before the game. You might remember Rick is the man who saved the flag while wearing a Cub uniform in center field at Dodger Stadium.
The very well-dressed Joe Davis, by the way, who overdressed the heck out of us.
Very much so.
Yeah. He doesn't have these sporty Valentine's Day Comcast polos to wear, however.
True. These are exceptional looking pullovers.
Rob Segedin takes a ball low, 1-1 to the former Yankee farmhand.
In the Dodger booth, they also have Oral Hershiser and Nomar Garcia-Perez, so they have a hitter and a pitcher to go with Joe Davis. And Rick Monday overdoing radio. Charlie Steiner also there.
You say he's overdoing radio?
No,
he's extra emotive.
He is doing exceptionally well, though, these many years. You might remember him as the first player ever drafted, 1965, by the Oakland Athletics, #1 in the first draft ever.
Kahnle gets a swing and a miss, and a 1-2-3 inning for the Sox right-hander Tommy Kahnle, protecting a 4-2 advantage thanks to his Saladino 2-run homer. 4-2, the Sox with the lead over the Dodgers. And what do you know, there are some changes on the field in a spring training game. J.P. Howell to the mound for Los Angeles.
J.P. Howell's spring has not been a good one, as the opponents hitting .389 with left-handers tormenting him to the tune of 600. And one of those guys who has been around quite some time. Last year with the Dodgers, he was overwhelming. JP 6-1, ERA 143 in 65 appearances.
There's a bunt third base side with the shift on, and they get him. Nicely done by Seguin on Ishikawa.
It's an outstanding thought process by Ishikawa. Great execution in bunting away from the shift, and yet Seguin makes a wonderful play. Because normally, if you do this, especially with a guy with some power that they're playing to pull, you're probably going to do it successfully. But Seguin has some other ideas, gets it there in plenty of time, and they cut him down. Good execution and an excellent defensive play.
Here's Davidson, who's had a nice spring. And I'm reminded, by the way, we're going to talk a little bit more about Adam Eaton, his base running. We had mentioned that and then not gotten back there. He had said the other day that he's trying to be a little less upright. He's trying to fire more towards second base rather than toward the outfield. His first step has sometimes been to the outfield. He wants to put the head down and get to second. That's one of the improvements that he's trying to make, is focus his energy directly toward the back.
You don't have to be fast to steal bases. You have to have good technique and first step quickness. And that was one of the things. I mean, Ricky Henderson was fast, but Ricky Henderson accelerated like he was shot out of a cannon. That first step, whether you choose the crossover step or the slide step on your first step, you have to accelerate to the point where you're almost at full speed after that step. The great base runners are able to do that. The guys like Vince Coleman, guys like Tim Raines of yesteryear, and certainly Ricky Henderson. And Adam is trying to do that. And you have to applaud the fact that he's been around a while, and he's just now getting to the point where he realizes that that's going to be the key to everything as far as base stealing is concerned.
A little bit of a window into where he is on that. I asked him, what's your philosophy on base stealing? And he said, it's evolving. Fouled away by Davidson, 3-2. Sox lead 4-2 on a two-run home run from Tyler Saladino last inning. J.P. Howell on 3-2, and Davidson again plugs one to left field. What a spring for Matt Davidson.
When the Sox got him over here, he came over with a world of potential because he was very strong. They projected him as a guy that could eventually hit 30 home runs. The problem was he didn't make enough contact. This year, in trying to lower his hands somewhat to improve his contact, you can see in a bit of a crouch, the hands a little lower, stayed with that curveball and drove it into left field. You watch him from the side. He gets a little hang time with that front foot, able to stay on the back foot as he waits for that breaking ball to come in. But he's had an impressive spring. He's going to go down. He's going to play in the minor leagues. But I think he's shown a whole lot of people in his front office that he's got some talent.
He said he wanted to retool the swing because he was a significant back foot guy with that wide open stance. He wanted to get moving more toward the pitcher and toward the baseball, and there you saw it right there.
You can move forward a bit with the front foot if you keep your hands back. That's the whole key. An observant pitcher is going to take a look at where the hands are for a hitter, and if you throw an off-speed pitch and you notice that the hitter does not move his hands, if he moves his hands either back or keeps them right where they were, then you got a problem. Then you've kicked off your off-speed pitch and you're going to have some problems. For a hitter, you can move out occasionally on the front foot, but you have to keep your hands back.
Matt Lawless tuning up for the Sox, maybe to throw the ninth. We shall see. Robinson over at first, playing for Frazier, who doubled in the second and scored in a 2-run second inning for the Sox. The shortstop and Charlie Culberson for the second out. Hey, Sox fans, our pregame patio parties are the best deal at the ballpark. Patio tickets are all inclusive. With purchase, you get a game ticket and enjoy an all-you-can-eat buffet catered by Baseball Buffet, as well as wine and Miller beverages. Patio opens 90 minutes prior to the game and closes 30 minutes after the start of the game. To purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com/group. No word on whether or not there will be shoe fly pie at the buffet.
We talked about that before the game, but I will tell you, I would drive to Yuma for that all-inclusive buffet. I'm a huge fan of buffets, yes.
In general, you just like buffets?
Yes.
And this specific one is top-notch.
It's outstanding. Yes, it is. We've got exceptional food at U.S. Cellular Field.
How far would you drive for French fried lobster tail?
Well, I thought I drove just far enough last night, but as it turned out, at El Charro, we had somewhat, I would say, a Mexican buffet theme. Paella, you don't eat that. I have to carry that EpiPen with me, which I did get in the dollar store just in case something happens to you with your allergy to shellfish.
The old rusty EpiPen that you carry in your bag?
It's the least I could do.
The very least you could do. This one popped up. Seguin and Culberson. It's the shortstop Culberson to put away Carlos Sanchez and the Sox. And we are finished in the 8th. 4-2 to the 9th we go. Sox trying to salt one away.
Spring training baseball continues tomorrow on CSN Chicago as the Sox travel to Mesa for a weekend matchup with the Athletics. It starts tomorrow at 3 o'clock on CSN, brought to you by Knaus Auto Park.
That's a preview of the first series of the regular season.
As these two teams will go head-to-head in Oakland, and it most likely, I would think, would be Chris Sale against Sonny Gray.
You'd imagine.
Matt Lawless comes in, having a pretty decent spring. Pitched for Tampa Bay. 2.25 ERA, getting an opportunity to save one game. This will be the second time he's called on to save one. Left-handers have plagued him somewhat. So he's got a 2-run lead, trying to preserve this one. It started out a great pitching matchup, lived up to its billing. Clayton Kershaw against Chris Sale. Sale going 5 1/3 and doing it without using that hard-breaking slider, so he got away with just a straight change, the fastball, and did a pretty good job overall.
Lawless pitching to Brandon Hicks. Matt Lawless is a former Biscuit, Steve. He last pitched last season with Double-A Montgomery, the Biscuits, in the Rays organization. You're not a former Biscuit, are you?
No, I was with the Giants, wending my way through the minor leagues, and they were very creative with their nicknames in that organization.
You were the San Jose Giants, something like that?
It was the Fresno Giants, the Amarillo Giants, and the Phoenix Giants.
Wow.
I know.
I mean, just the outside the boxedness of that. Line drive over short. And Brandon Hicks is on, thinking about two, decides to double back. You know, being on Comcast and the NBC logo behind us and on our shirts today, we'd be remiss not to mention that this is the anniversary of the very first Academy Awards telecast on NBC back in 1953. How about that?
Who won?
Everyone won. Bob Hope was the MC for it. Greatest Show on Earth was the best picture that year. Cecil B. DeMille's classic.
I like that. Cecil was right on top of his game in those days. Zaraga getting his first at bat.
Tip foul. 0-2. So we're in Mesa for the A's tomorrow. Then in Goodyear on, that's Monday, right? 2 days from now.
For you,
Monday.
that happens to be a home game.
That is a home game.
Yes.
Living in Goodyear for the time being.
And then the Giants right back here.
One game once again, and then every even day after that through the 30th we will be together.
We'll actually go one more time out to Goodyear, so we'll be playing both of the teams out there.
Cincinnati Reds, the other team,
and the Cleveland Indians. Get a chance to talk to our friend Tom Hamilton, the man who I believe I can hear from here broadcasting in Goodyear. He does have the strongest voice I have ever heard. A very exciting broadcaster, a wonderful broadcaster, beloved in Cleveland.
Get a chance to say hi to Tom in a couple days. Grounded to second. Sanchez on to second. One. The turn is there. Double play. Sanchez, Anderson, Ishikawa.
Nice play by Carlos Sanchez, who's a very good, strong defender. Anderson away from the bag, able to make sure there was no contact, to throw to first, and they get a slow-running Zaraga. Doubled at first. There will be a new rule in effect this year on sliding into second base, which, much to the delight of the pivot men, you're not going to be able to quite get as good a shot at him. You're going to be able to, and forced to, start your slide before the bag, so we don't have any type of Chase Utley situations where Tejada wound up with a broken leg and now is wending his way to St. Louis.
On his way there as we speak. To St. Louis before that to play Grapefruit League. Got on the wrong flight if he was going to St. Louis right now.
And you get a good seat, but
the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, Delvis Morales with 2 out. Down the line and foul. You like the rule that forces sliders to go directly into the bag, not go out of their way to get after fielders?
I don't mind breaking up a play or sliding hard, but I don't believe you should be allowed to venture as far as you can or start your slide over the bag. That's when guys really get hurt, and many of the guys defenseless in that situation, especially if they get a late throw. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good rule.
1-2 on Morales. Inside, 2-2.
The other rule, of course, is enforcing the time it takes from the manager to get to the mound, and we'll see if that's enforced. Of course, different managers with different problems. Bob Melvin, it takes a day and a half to get to the mound in Oakland.
change the pace up.
True. You'd have to hurry.
Fly ball left field. Leury Garcia, and the Sox have won 2 in a row. This one at the expense of the Dodgers. 4-2 your final score.
This one very well played on the part of the Sox. You saw 2 great pitchers going head to head. You saw an outstanding day for Tyler Saladino in his bid to secure the starting shortstop job, and Sox playing good solid baseball. And once again, don't get spoiled, young fellow. This was a very rapid pace for its 2nd day in a row.
Well, that's what the new rules are for. Quicken the pace in baseball. Chris Sale 5 1/3, 2 earned runs allowed. And the Sox get the win, 4-2 your final. For Steve Stone, our director Jim Angio, our producer Michelle Godwin, our associate producer Chris Kampka, our tech manager Mark Harper, and for the executive producer Jim Corno Jr., I'm Jason Benetti saying so long from Glendale. You've been watching Chicago White Sox baseball on Comcast Sportsnet.